Okay then, are we ready to go live, everybody?
I think you are live.
All right,
Ready.
great. Well then, let's call the meeting to order. This is a special work session of the board on July 13th, 2020. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Brandy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, first item of business here. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Well, good evening, everyone, and a huge thank you to the group for assembling so quickly. As you all know, things are really beginning to build momentum, excitement around reentry. And in particular, there are two things I wanted to talk to you about that are very time sensitive, is to get feedback on commencement, which is next Saturday. I know there was some email concerns that were shared, and I wanted to make sure that you all had an opportunity with enough time to give feedback, and also if we were to make changes in order to make that happen, because Thursday's too late for us. So having a conversation this evening is imperative. And then to let you all know, after your discussion, I want you to know that there is a plan B, and for you to hear what plan B is and to give feedback and to make a choice which one you feel the most comfortable with. So that's what the first thing I want to talk about this evening. And the second one is I want to give you a heads up on some concerns that I see that are growing, and then also some permission to move forward with an action item. And both of them are related to survey activity that I want to roll out to you and let you know what I would like to do. And I have not said anything to anyone, and I haven't done anything. I just want to make sure that you all are comfortable about these things that I see that are developing. So, and again, that is very time sensitive, and I didn't want to wait until Thursday because these things, it takes time in order for us to develop surveys and get things rolling. Okay, so again, thank you. I know y'all tired, but get ready. It's gonna be a year. So, hey. All right, so, and again, Cindy, thank you for being here. Our legal counsel is here to start giving us some feedback on things. Nikki, thank you so much for starting all of this for us. Cindy's great, she's very responsive. She's just awesome, we all love her. And then she'll be back Thursday as well when we're just talking about reentry planning, okay? She's on her calendar. I text her, she's like, okay, Karen, I put on my calendar. She's wonderful, love her. So let's go ahead and get started. I have Dr. Grauer here. And to give everyone context, I want to talk about the one that was sent out to you because I'm really not sure where everyone's thinking is about the original plan. So he's going to give you just a real high level overview of what you all were to react to, or there were some reactions to that. And any comments, because again, 3 board members said something in email, but there were 4 that did not. So that gives everyone an opportunity to have a discussion about that. And then we have plan B. So we want to be able to walk everyone through what plan B potentially could be if you're like, tweak this, tweak that, or is like, make plan C. So just want to make sure the board feels comfortable, and if we need to pivot, we will pivot, but we need to do it like now. So I don't know, Ed, if he can share this, if you could share the screen for Kevin so he can show everyone his very first plan.
It says right now I can't.
Okay, never had to do this before.
There's a setting at the bottom, Ed, that will say permissions, and you just need to say allow participants to share screen.
I have nothing that says permissions.
No, just click on screen and it says switch permissions or switch attendees.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Hmm.
I've got my mute, my stop video, participants, chat, shares. Oh, here we go. Sorry. No, that's for me to share my screen.
Click on this. You should have options there, though.
I think Chris is going to have to do it as the host.
Yeah.
I thought he said he made Ed the host.
Ed, can you make me the host and I'll grab it real quick?
How do I do that? I've never done this, guys. Sorry. All right, Roxana, I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roxana is the host.
Okay, Kevin, you should be good.
Okay, let me try it. Yes. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, well, I'll go over what we've been talking. And I know this is especially interesting to Wes and Reverend Posley, as they have seniors, as I do. And I can always just run upstairs and ask her what she thinks. And that sometimes is good and sometimes it's not good. But so I'm just going to go forward and tell you what we've created so far. We've got a kind of a crude image. If you notice, the whole idea is about spacing here. And we tried to keep it somewhat consistent with our past spacing. If you look at the track where it says class of 2020 on the track, spaced out 6 feet apart. You know, Ian, Roland, and I kind of went out there one day and we, kind of surveyed it ourselves and figured, yeah, this could work with 90 students spaced out 6 feet apart. We think we can do that. We put the families in the bleachers and kind of I'll scroll down and we normally get pretty good, and people sit anywhere they can sit. The bleachers, we realized when we do this, if we invite 4 people per family, that's 360 guests. We cannot put them in the bleachers and space them out in a socially distanced way. It would be impossible. So the next solution was to look at the field, which was our next biggest space. And Ian and Manny and I met and we realized we can put actually 90 8 by 10 inch painted white little squares, like when we paint the field for a soccer game. We can do that and give each family their spot. Now it would be first come, first serve. I'm not gonna dole out and say Europe, and I'm not gonna get into that. But they would have their spot and they could bring like a picnic style lawn chair and sit there. And obviously we're gonna ask everybody to have masks. And we, the graduates with the class of 2020 that Ed got for us, which are pretty cool. And normally, I'm gonna scroll down a little bit and come back up if you don't mind. That's how we normally parade in from the cafeteria. We think we can still do that if we are cognizant of spacing. We would just, Roxana would farther to the right and Karen would be further to the left. And we would follow 6 feet apart. And we would have 3 rows of chairs with 30 chairs in a row, which means 90. And again, Ian and I spaced that out. We think we can do that pretty confidently. That's how we normally sit, almost body to body. And obviously we can't do that. Let's see, let me go back up. And then in front of where the students are, let me move the cursor right here. That's where the kids in the stage, where we hand out the diplomas.
Evan, you're frozen.
Karen, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you-
can.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
I just changed to a different Wi-Fi network. We have a couple in the house. So the board would be stationed in the pink to the left and right of the main tables. We don't want to block the view of the families as the kids are going to approach the table, get their diploma. I'll have Otto Schultians there to take a photo. Every year we get a photo similar to this with them holding their diploma. That's last year, Danny Finley. And we'll still do that. But we don't want families also jumping out of their space and coming up to take their own pictures. And that's a concern we will definitely try to school them on. And we'll give them the pictures free and we'll share them with them so they don't have to worry about that. And if you look to the right, there's a little yellow space that says notes. You know, we encourage everybody to wear a mask. The doors would open at 6, first come seating. We ask families to stay in their space. And the graduates and teachers and board members will line up at 6:45. Normally we line up in the cafeteria. We would use the entire first floor to spread them out to try to get as best spacing as we can. I'll stop there and see if there are any questions or comments.
I do have one. It says we encourage guests to wear a mask.
Yeah, again, that's wording we can change. You know, I kind of took that from Webster Groves because I watched them just do this. And a lot of this came from, some of the ideas came from their event, which went pretty well. Watching Kirkwood and Webster do it, the biggest challenge is after the ceremony is over.
Yes.
And, you know, after it's over, our authority kind of wanes because I'm not their principal anymore. So it's like, how do you negate the natural tendency to want to, you know, hug each other and share some time together? So what I noticed that did at Webster, they just kind of left. And again, I'm not saying that's the right or wrong thing to do. But that's what they did. So we could change that to say you need to wear a mask.
I think it needs to, if we decide to do this, I think it does need to say required.
Okay.
But I'm speaking for me, so I'd like to hear my other board members' opinions.
I agree with Brandy that it should say required. And my question was, what other school districts have we spoken to or witnessed their graduation ceremony? So thank you, Kevin, for contributing that about Webster and Kirkwood.
Yeah.
Kevin, when did they have their graduation ceremonies?
Kirkwood's was Saturday, past Saturday, and Webster's was the previous weekend.
Okay. And will our students be wearing masks when they're lining up indoors?
Yes, that's the plan. Yeah.
Kevin, how is I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean. Sorry.
No. Go ahead, Francis. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. If you had another question.
No.
I was just wondering about kind of the flow of crowd as they arrive. Are they going to be coming in over by kind of the concession stand, weight room area to access the field, or what about the other access points, and how do we avoid sort of bottlenecks?
That's a good question. Again, this is all our kind of planning, and we thought we would have two options. Obviously, the one is the concession area, and the other one would be the track entrance on the east side. And I talked to Ian about that, and normally we have buildings and grounds kind of in the parking lot, helping with parking and things like that. We would definitely would need some support in terms of staffing just to keep people moving towards a direction. I normally use NHS student volunteers. I don't want to ask them this year to do anything, but I do have senior advisors, 6 of them, that I could use and pull for that reason. I have also the buildings and grounds team in Levinston Hall has offered, hey, whatever you need me to do, I'm there. And I've asked him to bring a couple of his partners with them too.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kevin. I would just be,
I couldn't hear that.
yeah, that was a little choppy.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you.
I still can't.
She said, go ahead. She's sorry she interrupted you.
Oh, okay.
Can you all hear me?
It's very choppy, Nikki.
It is muffled.
Nikki, if you turn off your video right now, it might help too with the reception. Okay, Nikki, maybe you
I
can.
think Nikki
yeah.
texted just, I think it just came to me. So I'll
Great,
read her question. It says, will we have someone at the entrances that will ensure guests are wearing masks?
Yeah, the plan is to have either our buildings and grounds with Maple Police at the 2 entrances, checking for masks. And, you know, if we choose this route, we would definitely, in our communications with people, try to be as clear as possible about mask expectations and why.
Is there the potential of having a streamed version of this? I know obviously, you know, there are some families who are still going to be, you know, are going to feel left out, right? If their health, you know, situations are such. I know that may also limit the number of people that we have in person, which obviously that's something that we might want to try and do.
Yeah.
The
I
logistics.
would have to ask Chris about that, how to do that. We've done that before. We know it's doable. I'm going to slide down here for a second. I mean, sorry, Karen, I used your image.
Yeah.
This is our, we do have a virtual graduation we've already created. I shared it with Karen. I purposefully have not shared it with anybody else because I want them to come to our graduation before we share it with them. But it is about an hour and 15-minute long. It's a good production. I think Ed has seen it as well. So that is something we can also do, but that is not a live stream. That is a recorded thing we did.
I don't think Wes has a mic, but he had a question about taking photos with the school in the background and what we're going to be doing to control and, you know, manage social distancing before and I guess after the ceremony. And Kevin, you kind of alluded to it, but
yeah,
I don't know if you have anything else.
From what I've talked to is Dr. Irvin at Webster Grove said before was not nearly as challenging as after. You know, before the ceremony, people are kind of trickling in at different times, not the big clump. But when they exit, there is a mass exodus at the same time. And, you know, that he said he didn't have a solution for, nor did Dr. Havener at Kirkwood. When I spoke to him, he was like, yeah, in his words, it wasn't good. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that, Francis. I really don't.
So we do have a plan B. I don't want you all to feel like you have to make this, or however you feel about this. Maybe Kevin, you can flip to the next.
Yeah, let me go this one. So this is another option, probably definitely less human to human contact than this one. And I witnessed this one myself at University City High School because I live right next door, and I got stuck in the parade by accident as I was trying to come home one day. What is this? Okay, and it was pretty cool. So I met with their principal, Mr. Peoples, and had a discussion, and he shared me his notes, and I kind of turned his notes into MRH version of the notes. And again, I'll show you the image and try to talk through it. But if you can imagine the pool lot, again, I don't have permission to use the pool lot yet. I have to talk to the city. But much like our parade, we use that as a staging area. You would break down in alphabetical order times where you want to meet there. So A through E, and we'd have the names ready to go. Meet us, please, here at this time. And what we would talk about is allowing 2 cars per family. The graduate would show up in one of the 2 cars, obviously, with his or her cap and gown on. We would have people, our personnel in the lot, organizing them and sending them forward. They'd come up, let me use my cursor, kind of the follow. They'd come up here and make a right on Lohmeyer. And as they approach Gerhard and Lohmeyer right here, we'd have a tent with one of our senior advisors or one of our assistant principals, and the graduate would step out of the car. And Ed and I talked about purchasing a red carpet. The red carpet would go along where this red line is. So the graduate only steps out of the car. We would hand the graduate a card with his full or her full name for a reason I'll tell you in a second. And we would hand out any NHS cords or any awards that person has earned, and they could put on around their gown. They would walk slowly, and their parents would follow them in their car, their 2 cars here. And again, I watched this happen. It's pretty cool. But we'd also have our teachers lined up here. It's about, I walked it today and I didn't have a tape measure, but I would say it's 150 to 200 feet or so. And, you know, perhaps the board members there as well spread along the pathway, kind of cheering on the students as they walk. And their parents can be taking pictures from the car, etc. We'd have a second tent or staging area here, kind of to the right of it. There's a stairwell there that goes down to the commons. And that's where we would have either a stage or a table where Karen, myself, and whoever else we decide, where the student would actually pick up their diploma in this blue area here. Otto Schultians has offered to take photos of them there as well. Meanwhile, the family's still driving by. They're still following them in their car. And we'd have a second table here where I have a couple senior gifts I give them. We've already got them packaged and ready to go. We would hand them to them. And then around this corner is when they get back in their car. And we just do a nonstop flow of this, which U City had 200 grads about. They got done in 2 hours. We have 90. I would imagine it's an hour or a little bit more. So, you know, we have some notes we've made about times and who would be where. Some kind of scrolling through. And then more specifics about who would be at which tent. Some protocols. I'm going to skip down to the bottom here because some to-dos. Obviously, we need a red carpet. There's currently 2 large dumpsters on Lohmeyer, and I'd like to not have those there if we do this. We need a couple tents. We'd have to block off the street over here at Martini so no cars would flow that way. and we'd like to block off over here. So I need help from the local police, which I'm confident we can get. The new city had a balloon arch where the kids all walked through a balloon arch before they got to grab their diploma. Do we need a stage or not? I'm not sure we do. I think if we have a couple tables with maybe our background, we create. Another question I had is, can we use the pool as a staging area? I know the pool is open right now and it's open till 7 p.m. every day. And then there's tech support. You know, as the student walks right here to get their diploma, they would hand their card to Dr. Smith, who would have a microphone and speakers, and she would say their name aloud. You know, the first student, Jack Raymond Ablin. He would walk up, grab his diploma. We'd get pictures. Again, trying to make it as special as we possibly can in these circumstances. So yeah, that's the gist of it.
So any thoughts from the board regarding Plan B?
I know there's a lot of questions still for Plan B, but personally, I like that. It feels, I don't know, a little safer than the other option, and it. I know there's a lot of kind of moving parts, literally and figuratively, in that. But on the surface, I'm also thinking back to what the Booster Club did for our seniors and how popular that was.
That was great.
In a safe way to get people moving, and you know, it sort of harkens back to that a little bit. I don't know how the rest of the colleagues feel, but I'm still a little concerned on the crowds and the bottlenecks and being able to control access, control masks, all of those things give me a little bit of pause for Plan A.
Hopefully I can be heard now. Oh, yay. It looks
Yeah,
like
we can hear you.
I would be very much in support of Plan B over Plan A. If for no other reason, but for me personally, I have issues that don't really make me in a situation where I should be in a lot of crowds. So with COVID. So this way, I think I could participate in this. And I think that folks in our community who are also in my situation would be able to participate without taking the risk that comes from having such a large group of people coming from so many different areas. So I would support B.
Thank you, Francis and Wes. I'd love for everyone to weigh in, A or B. Pros, cons, which one feels the most comfortable?
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just put in our chat that I really like Plan B because it alleviates the issue that was discussed by Kevin in Plan A, which is what Francis just said, the bottlenecking out after the ceremony. So I think that this is very well put together, Kevin, and I appreciate even having a Plan B. I think it's great.
Thank you, Nikki.
I agree. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Brandy.
I was just gonna say I agree with Plan B as well. I would just be devastated if somebody attended this and came away with COVID. I really would. And I just think that we can't control, like you're gonna inevitably have somebody that forgot a mask or isn't as prepared, and then that's gonna be an issue. And then you're also gonna have people at the end that are trying to hug or conversate, or it's just too hard to manage and control that. And like I said, I really worry about endangering someone. So I support Plan B as well.
I agree with that.
I like Plan B. I don't love Plan B, obviously. And I had the occasion to actually see parts of the U City graduation that you saw, Kevin, as well. We had some friends that had some kiddos in it. And I love the energy around it. So I think that it's going to be a lot of pressure on the staff to try to make this as special as possible, considering the unique circumstances. I also defer to the parents on the board and to Kevin, because you're the ones that have kiddos that are part of this. So I think your voices ring loud in this decision. So.
Thank you, Maria. Ralph, you have a graduate this year.
Yes. I'm kind of between both of the plans. I feel like the plan A is more of a what we've come accustomed to, but the plan B, I do understand as far as the concern and safety of our students, parents, and the community, that probably would be the safest plan to go with. I could go with either one, but I feel like as a member of the board, Plan B would probably be best for us making sure that we are keeping our social distance.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Katie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like others on the board, I was concerned about the original plan and the opportunities for congregating. I mean, I've been in the cafeteria when the seniors are lining up, you know, the past years, and it is hard to contain that excitement. You know, even Kevin, with using the whole first floor, I have a hard time, you know, picturing what exactly that would look like. So I also feel much more comfortable with Plan B, and recognize that we're going to need to ensure some magic happens behind the scenes here with both our staff and our partners in Maplewood City and others, and, you know, certainly let us know if it can be helpful in making any, you know, asks for this very unusual situation.
Thank you, Katie. And lastly, Cindy, any thoughts legally that you might want to add to this, or not, actually? Either way, feel free to share.
I really don't have any legal concerns about Plan B. Plan A, if you were going to go with that, I had a few suggestions. One would be for absolutely requiring masks, not making it encouraged or optional. And I know with what, and it doesn't even sound like this is probably relevant, but with Webster Groves, how they got them to leave right away is they had to actually go pick up their actual diploma somewhere else. And so they dismissed and they had two different places to go. And so parents and kids wanted to get out to get their diploma right away. So they had an incentive to get people out quickly without congregating. And it doesn't sound like you can do that in Plan A. So I'm pleased that you all went with Plan B.
Okay.
Kevin, do you have any concerns about any students who having a vehicle is not an option for them?
We went through that on the parade, Katie, and there was a couple that didn't, but the amount of support and extra people that just showed up I had too many almost. So I think if we put it out there, we'll get whatever we need.
Any other comments? Well, board, thank you again for responding so quickly. As you can see, there are a lot of details we need to work through, and why I didn't want to wait until Thursday. But I want to make sure with everything happening in the release of the district plans, and there's just going to be a lot of intense energy around re-entry and COVID planning. I wanted to make sure you all were comfortable with commencement. next weekend. So thank you so much. Kevin, thank you for being so well prepared.
You're welcome.
All right, Kevin, you can go now.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Right.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
I'm not going to keep you long with this next one again. I wanted to just briefly give you a heads up on some developments and permission to move forward to solicit some feedback from 2 stakeholder groups. So some of you are probably aware a lot is going on in the media right now, national media, with pushback coming from teachers, from staff with reentry and concerns for that. And I completely understand. And my point this evening is that I want to be responsive and open and available to both groups, support staff and also teaching staff. I have 2 leadership groups already, and we've talked about that at the work session for support staff. I have leaders for that, and I also have certified staff leaders. So on Thursday, I'm meeting with support staff, and Friday, I'm meeting with the teacher leaders. And essentially is to get them caught up with all of the work that we've done this summer, and to let them know, which of course they probably know, that July 20th, the district plan is going to be coming out. And then August 3rd, the building plans are going to be coming out. And any concerns that they currently have, I want to get that information from them. But I know right now there is one teacher union leader who is really asking for us to send out a survey yet again, because we did it in June. But there are a lot of concerns because community spread has changed from when we originally sent out that survey. So they're asking for that, and I support that. But I would like to do it this week before the 20th, and as much as possible, or maybe shortly after. We're meeting with, I saw Roxana's face. We are going to meet with them Friday, so around there somewhere. And also to begin planning for the building plans coming out August 3rd. So it's kind of in between there in that window. We want to try and get that out to refine the next level of planning that's happening in the buildings. So I know, Roxana, just to kind of reinforce the things that I said that are kind of percolating, and I want to make you all aware from the HR side, what are some of the things that you are hearing coming from staff?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, if you're on social media, you know that there's a round of concerns that are happening. And so part of what I try to do is listen and contextualize as well, just in case you all haven't been following the county. We've had, I think, 26 cases in the Maplewood, in the school district area of total people over the amount of time. So not to say that that's not good or bad, but just trying to think about locally. So we are watching that, and teachers, I think, understand that. I think that they have some unknowns that are on their mind. So, you know, thinking about what it looks like and how it's different is often overwhelming for folks. Like, you can't imagine being in a room with kids the way it was, with masks and with all of those things. So there are a lot of those kinds of questions logistically. The principals have been working with leadership groups in each of the buildings, and so the information coming back from that has been generally positive. I was set in on a couple of those groups today. We did have our first, the office staff came back today, so I checked on all of those buildings and they seemed very positive. We also had Kagan training with, I think, 16 individuals in a gymnasium all spread out. So we did, 6 feet apart, 4 by 4. And that I was in and out of that training several times today. That seemed to be going reasonably well. So things are inching forward. But on the opposite side of that, I also had a teacher send a letter of resignation over the weekend saying that she had extreme anxiety. And so, we we're hearing some of that as well. I've also gotten some inquiries from a few staff members who have health concerns, and we're working through an interactive process with them to figure out what we can do to mitigate some concerns. So all of that is happening. And I think we're not unique in that situation. I think all of that is happening. I'm staying in very close contact with my colleagues from other districts, and we're working on plans to deal with many of those issues.
Well, and we have not, and she's said building plans or building meetings and such, but meeting with teacher leaders, our teacher union leaders, we have not met with them. And I just want central office to have conversations, and I want them to feel like they're heard in our typical structure. And that whole cycle of communication, we have not had that, and in an organized way to disseminate out to the entire district with the same message. Consistency and coherence is critical in a time like this, and that's what I really want to launch starting this week, Thursday and Friday, and I wanted to make you all aware that that is happening now. But also I wanted you all to know that I wanted to reach out to them again to see where they are and how they feel, because a lot has happened since June. So is that okay? Are you all comfortable with that? Okay, I see nods, thumbs, a smile.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great.
Sounds good.
All right, very good. So the other stakeholder group that I've been thinking about are our parents. So the district plan, district only, is coming out on Monday. And there's a lot of buzz and energy around that, and what does that actually consist of? And you all are going to get that on Thursday. But I've been thinking about how do we organize some of the feedback and reaction to the district plan. And so I want to know how you all feel about creating a survey so we can then capture some of their thoughts about the district plan on the 20th. And knowing also with the information that's going out on the 20th, we're letting them know it's not all encompassing of like the school experience. There will be a level for the building survey to come out on August 3rd. So we're letting them know when all this goes out on the 20th, more to come, but what are their thoughts about what they received on the 20th? You know, just to get feedback. So I wanted to have a conversation with you regarding that and asking them, the parents, what they thought about the district plan.
Well, I'll tee off by saying that I think whatever survey we put out with the parents and probably even with the staff needs to include some kind of questioning that gets us to a mindset of their risk tolerance.
Yes.
I don't know how we do that. I'm not a survey professional, but it's really important that people, that we can get an idea of just what level of risk they're willing to take, because we can't necessarily guarantee anything.
Mm-hmm.
We can do our best, but we can't make it a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Karen, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so my question is about the plan, and specifically, like, will our district plan have an explanation of what would need? Hold on, baby. Okay, sorry. What will?
We lost you.
I'm trying to read
Yeah.
lips.
We lost
I don't
you.
have you. Can you type it? I'm so sorry. I think, are you talking about if they're choosing not to do in person, will they have choice? Is that what?
No. What I'm thinking is, so when we had to close down our buildings in March, that came from our county leaders, right? And so what I'm wondering is, if will our district have something where if we see some numbers rise, or if we see something, we will just activate like shutting a building down, or are we going to wait for our county leaders to tell us, okay, we need to shut down schools again?
Oh,
And would that be included in the
yeah,
plan?
somewhat. Yeah, that's the $10,000 question. And we were talking about this during our cabinet meeting. And we do want to provide them some information on our guidance and what we are paying attention to in terms of community spread. Now, is there, I can't tell you that someone is, from the county going to say close all the schools, because I don't know if they'll do that, because it becomes a little political now, because there's that push to keep kids in. So they may just say it's up to individual school districts. It's hard for me to predict. So then it may be up to us as a board. You all need to kind of have that in the back of your head. What is your tolerance? What is, and again, and I'm looking at you, Wes, like, what is the data? What is the number? I see your face in my mind, because it's a good question, because we don't have it. But yes, I think that's what's going to happen. They're just going to say, it's up to districts. Okay, Cindy's waving. She has something to say.
It's going to be up to. It's going to be up to the individual districts. It was last spring, and it will be in the future. It's going to be an autonomous decision, district by district. As you remember, in March, Ferg Floor made that decision first. Yeah. And then all the other districts kind of came together and announced it together. But there's no requirement to do it all together. Ultimately, you guys make that decision.
Yeah.
Cindy, while you're speaking, I just read a legal opinion today, and I could not tell you which attorney group put it out. It was from Missouri. And the guidance that I read basically suggested that districts remain open but attentive to the county health department's guidance, and that we made decisions, again, based on tolerance from the county health department. I'm not really sure what that means, because they will not tell us to stay open or close. They can only tell us what risk factors are. But this particular legal opinion seemed like districts would be assuming more risks if we made arbitrary decisions. I've just heard you say that it will be our decision. How do we reconcile those positions?
If you can get the county health department or the county executive to actually give you guidance, good luck. Because how many counties are there in Missouri? Some are going to be really hands-on. Ours is not. St. Louis County is not going to tell us what to do. They will, my advice is to always consult with them, keep them in the loop, make sure that your constituents know that you're consulting with them and that you get their advice. But ultimately, it's going to be up to you. And as far as I know, there's been questions about what is the school district's liability if a kid gets COVID while they're at school, or a staff member gets COVID. Is there legal liability? Probably not under sovereign and official immunity, as long as we are acting reasonably, as long as we are taking everything into account when we make those decisions, as long as we're not going completely. I think it would be extremely dangerous to say all kids in school, we're not closing for anything, we're not going to socially distance, then yeah, I think that we could be proven to have acted negligent even with sovereign and official immunity. But as long as we are acting within those guidelines, we are socially distancing, we are requiring masks where masks are required, any student over the age of 9 has to wear a mask, staff has to wear a mask. As long as we are staying within those guidelines, and if someone should get it anyway, I'm confident, legally that we're going to be fine. But if we don't take those recommendations into account, then I would be very concerned about our liability.
So Cindy, is there some sort of a documentation stream that we could produce that would help to demonstrate that kind of due diligence, or are we just going to have to hope's not a strategy, but are we going to have to hope that our that everyone follows the rules, because, you know, that's the real bottom line here, is the human
But-
behavior aspect is what needs to be controlled.
Every district that I represent is terrified about that student that comes to school and refuses to wear a mask because their parents think it's a hoax and their parents are going to make them wear a mask. And then what do you do if with a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old that refuses to wear a mask? You know, are you going to suspend them? Are you going to isolate them? What are you going to do? I mean, you need to think about that now, because we're probably not going to suspend a kid. We still have to provide a free and appropriate public education, but we need to figure out what we're going to do with those students when we can't, because we can't tie a mask around their head and make them wear it, but we also want to keep everyone else safe. So suggest we think about those issues sooner rather than later with administration.
And
I
Cindy,
think we need to have a plan that says if we have someone in our building test positive, what is our plan of action going to be? And everybody knows what's going to happen before it happens. We're going to close down for 3 days and sanitize. We're going to close down for 2 weeks. You know, I mean, if we have 5 cases, this is what's going to happen. Have a plan beforehand and then follow the plan. And I think as long as we do that, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, we have a plan for that.
and
I figured
Cindy, at what level do we need updated policy, board policy, and at what point is procedure enough? I mean, I've heard both on the national chats and the local chats, you know, are you going to have a mask policy for your district? You know,
Yeah.
what are you recommending there?
You know, when you hear those things, they interchange policy and procedures. They don't really know what they mean when they use those words. I think a procedure is fine. I don't think you need to actually amend your board policy for this specific incident. I think you can have a procedure in place for any pandemic that is going to apply. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's why you're here, Cindy. All right, so again, I don't want to keep you all night, but are you comfortable with me reaching out to families after the July 20th release of the district plan?
Yeah, I mean, Karen, I just want to make sure that and I know you all do this, but you know, there are some things that will be non-negotiable, and those things are not things that we are asking about, you know, and there are things that could still be improved upon or adjusted between July 20th and August 24th. And those are things that could still be up for input.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Believe me, yes. I just want to give people an opportunity, because Brandy, you sat in on the SSD Zoom call, and it was like 75 people on that call. It was really well attended, and there was a great deal of energy to follow up and have discussion and questions answered after the 20th. So
Yeah.
I know there's a need to have some dialogue, and not that I'm going to jerk people around, but I feel like some of it, I want to know where people are with their understanding, so we know how to maybe go back, you know, and re-explain if necessary or clarify.
So I was on that call. Yes, it was awesome. There was a lot of people. There were a lot of questions. Ben Gleason did get through most of them pretty and very well. But what I would like to see on the lines of that is maybe have them submitted ahead of time.
Yes, I agree.
And that way we can address it like Katie was talking about, where we're saying the ones that are non-negotiable, hey, look at this policy or look at that. And then the other ones we can answer and kind of engage in a dialogue with. And there were a lot of questions that were the same question, but kind of asked in different ways. And then we can combine those as well. But overall, I thought it was really good, but I would like to see that for the one that comes after.
And it's interesting that you said that. There were clusters of questions, and that's kind of what I'm going with the survey. How do I restate this again? How do I help the buildings reinforce this? So that's a very good point that you brought up, Katie. I don't want you to think that I'm going to jerk over in a different direction because somebody doesn't like it. But what is it that I'm seeing? Because I'm thinking about Roxanne, and she starts to see some trends in how people are responding to things. So it just helps us with planning in that regard on how we reteach, I guess, in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, and I think from Nikki and I participating on both of the luncheon listens too, I mean, the level of like very specific, you know, detail that people want to get to. I mean, obviously we want to get to that. And, you know, I also think that there's, you know, there's some macro stuff that we have to settle in on first before we know exactly what time of day your kid is going to get recess. Because we still believe in recess, even if, you know, there's different ways that it's going to work in, you know, the stable group settings or whatever. I do think that there's, you know, there's a level of granular detail that folks want that I appreciate if you're going to be communicating that we have the detail up to this point. We know it's going to go further. We're still hashing out all those details because frankly, things like who chooses to come back and who chooses to remain virtual will impact some of those decisions as well.
Yep.
And I had one other additional question, just an idea I had a few days ago about distributing thermometers to our families and staff for their use. Maybe we could have our nurses make a video on how to use them. My question though goes, I mean, I think that we might think about doing something like that. I think it probably only costs about 30 grand to get all our families a thermometer, but in a larger sense, what I was wondering too is what could we ask them, since this is a participatory event, defeating a pandemic, can we ask them to create a log of that data so that we can demonstrate that they're actually doing it? Is that something we can legally ask of them?
So Wes, are you saying you want the parents to produce a log showing that they've taken their child's temperature? Is that, am I understanding
I would
correctly?
suggest the temperature of the entire family, but at a minimum, the child or the staff member's temperature. I just think that we need to have some data.
Yeah.
To help the contact tracing as well. I mean, that's the other thing I'm concerned about with this is, suppose we have a contact case we need to track down. The county doesn't have the tests it needs to do that.
Right.
That's a different subject.
Right. So I think the only way we're going to know for positive if a temperature is taken is if we take it ourselves. I think there's no way we can require a family to show us a log. We don't have any teeth to put in it anywhere to make them do it. And there's no legal teeth to put in it either. So I think if we want to make sure that a kid's temperature has been taken, that we have to do it ourselves.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted an answer there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Roxanna, real quick, you mentioned COVID cases specific to our district boundaries, 26, I think. Are you getting that data daily, regularly, and is it reliable data? Because I struggle finding like specific data to specific areas.
It's hard to find, honestly. You can go to the county health department site and they've got a map by zip code. So you can take a look at the zip code. So you can get Maplewood pretty easy. You've got to carve out a subsection of Richmond Heights, which they have color coded. So I can tell you the 26 is Maplewood. The Richmond Heights number is larger. Obviously that's not all us. And it looks like the higher numbers are towards the north, which would be out of our attendance area. So I can't give you a specific number there. And then it's cumulative. So to figure out how many cases we got, like in the last 2 weeks, we had to take a number from 2 weeks ago and then compare it to the number today. And if my math is correct, and Chris confirmed me, we think there were four new cases over that 2-week period. But you have to work for it because they're not putting it out in a way that tells you what's happening in real time. It's cumulative numbers. So we're trying to look at 10 or 15 different metrics, but we're having to do it in that way because they're just not publishing it in a way that makes it easily digestible for what we're trying to look at, which is how many new cases, where are those cases, what are the age populations of those cases. We've been looking at hospitalization rates and death rates, which are both very low, almost minuscule for the population of kids that we serve. So we're trying the best that we can to access the data that would be unique to our students and our population and our families, so that when we're making decisions, we're making really good real-time decisions. But I really wish they would publish those results in ways that were more useful for our purposes. I know they're not publishing them for our purposes. I selfishly wish that we had them published.
Well, it's a pretty important purpose. I agree.
Yeah.
And the last thing I had was more of just a quick comment as it relates to staffing and the feedback from our teachers and staff in the buildings, that I think we should be at some point utilize the CBTF function in some form or format about supports that we have previously maybe not supported our staff in. Obviously, we're dealing with unprecedented issues, whether that's mental health supports or other things that, you know, we've done a pretty good job of estimating the costs associated with some of the physical infrastructure issues and some of the other things around that. I just want to make sure that from a board perspective, one of the things we do participate in is that CBTF function, and it is a great format, in my opinion, for some of these unprecedented things to come up and talk about what kind of resources we're willing to potentially, you know, spend on supporting our staff, because it's, I think, a key factor that they're going to need, you know, even well beyond this time frame. Just the long-lasting effects of all of this is not something I want to, you know, just lose track of. So just a side comment there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, so everyone, that's all I have on my agenda that I wanted to update you on and receive feedback on my actions. And I appreciate that. It's 7:41. I didn't want to keep you long, but I had a need. So thank you so much. I want to make sure that we are in step with one another during these really challenging times. So thank you for being so supportive.
Thanks, Karen.
A motion to adjourn the meeting then?
Thank you. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Brandy. All those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody. See you
Cindy.
Thursday.
Thanks, Cindy. Good to see you, Cindy.